Welcome to FemLead, the podcast on female leadership and role models. This show aims to inspire and equip you with the tools you need to navigate your career plans. FemLead brings inspiring career perspectives and strategies to guide your path to success. Your host, Alexandra, will interview role models on new, exciting topics with each episode. If you like what you hear, give us a review and subscribe to the show on your preferred streaming platform. Enjoy.
Hello all and welcome to a new episode of Family Podcast. This is season 4 and we're discussing career breakthroughs. Remember that if you're based in Denmark, we have a special event coming up, our first career conference in person on May 21st in Copenhagen. Go to familypodcast.com and sign up right now. My next guest is a product leader at Google. She works on product strategy for Google's platforms like Android, Chrome, and emerging platforms such as Auto and Wear. She has over 15 years of experience in growth strategy and business model innovation and has worked across the UK, the US, India, Japan, Switzerland, and Zimbabwe. After growing up and studying in New Delhi, she moved to the UK in 2007 to pursue a master's at the London School of Economics and started her career in the UK in management consulting. She then moved to EY, and while there, she did a 9-month part-time coding bootcamp to go deeper into technology and how technology stacks work. She then joined Google in 2020 and describes her career as a jungle gym. Gurpriya Bhatia joins us today, and I couldn't be happier to welcome such a great guest for a new interview about career progression and how to set yourself up for a promotion. Without further ado, let's welcome Gurpriya. Hello, Gurpriya. Great to have you here. How are you today?
Hi, Alexandra. Thank you so much for inviting me. I'm very well. I'm super excited to speak to you and have a discussion around career growth and my experience of working at Google. So thank you.
Thank you very much, Gurpriya. I think it's going to be a very interesting discussion because you are a promoter of career growth, and I feel like we've discussed that a bit online about giving some advice. So feel free to tell us anything that you think worked for you and anything that you reflected on. Feel free to share it with us because I feel a lot of people see product strategy as a role, but also working for Google as a goal. And if you have any tips throughout the interview, feel free to share them so we all get your learnings.
Yeah, sounds good. I'll be very happy to share, and hopefully it's useful for all the listeners as well. So that's great.
Fantastic. Okay, so let's start by telling us, what does it mean to work on product strategy, and tell us more about the scope of the role.
Sure. I'll try to do my best. Product strategy at Google can be very, very wide. In my current role, some of the things that I work on is what should be the long-term strategy of some of our largest products, as well as some of our emerging platforms. And by largest products, I mean products like Android, Chrome OS, Chrome browser, and then emerging platforms are things like Android Auto, Android TV, and so on. And then there is a lot happening both internally and externally, which would impact how these products evolve or indeed grow. What are some of the features and functionalities which our amazing engineering teams need to build? So we assess really a variety of factors, looking at internal plans, looking at what is happening externally in the market, things from the government or evolving regulatory landscape. So assessing all of that to basically inform our strategy going forward. To give you an example, one of the projects that I'm working on at the moment is looking at our sustainability strategy. How can we contribute towards making or helping our users make more sustainable choices? And again, that's one of the things which falls within product strategy at Google.
Gurpriya, tell me now, can you share what makes a product leader in your opinion?
Sure. So I think in my opinion, given all my experience, some of the things which would make a good product leader is you should know your product super well. You should know what product or product sets that you're working with. How are these products positioned in the market? Who your users are? What are some of the needs of your users which your product meets specifically? I think it's also super important to have your eye on the competition to see what the competition is doing, or what's happening in the market in general. Like, are there any big events like we saw with COVID-19? Lots of video platforms gained a lot of traction because of the fact that people were now looking for different ways to connect with others, whether it is for personal or is it for professional things. So I feel like it is super important to keep your pulse on what's happening external to your organization or your company, and then making sure that you're innovating rapidly to meet these external needs. I.e., you don't just feel satisfied with the product that you have out there, but you're hungry to improve it and make it even better to meet all of your users' needs. So I think if you do all of those things well, you would be a good product leader. And then one final thing, which people often forget, it's important to also work super well with cross-functional teams, because you as a product are not operating on an island. You do need collaboration from lots of different parts of your organization generally, whether you work in a small company or a large company, to kind of make your product successful, be it marketing, finance, sales. So it's important to make sure that you're able to build those relationships well overall. So yeah, those would be at least my thoughts.
Great advice. I'm super happy that you share some more insights into the role, because we do know that the product role is in some way merging different functions within a team, but its role, it's also to make it work with cross-functional teams and leading different squads and project teams in order to complete the task. So it's very interesting to hear your opinion about it and have more of an overview of what should people expect from becoming a product leader in an organization. I would love to hear your thoughts on advice for anyone looking to be promoted in their role. Is there like a step-by-step or a process that you consider when you look at your career?
Yeah, sure. I think I can lean back a little bit on all my career, my current role, as well as previous companies that I've worked with. In my experience, if you're looking for promotion, there are some things that you need to be doing well, right? You need to know exactly what your manager's expectations are from you in your current role. You need to make sure that you're doing fulfilling all of those expectations. So basically, you're doing your current job really, really well. The second thing I would say to do is think about what the next step looks like in whichever organization that you're working on. Who is the person who's more senior than you, who inspires or motivates you, and then make sure that you understand what is it that they are doing differently that you are not doing at the moment, and try to start doing some of those things, right? Like, is it leading meetings? Is it leading an entire project and not just a work stream? So figure that out and start asking proactively for opportunities where you get that opportunity to demonstrate those skills. I'm lucky that my initial training, career training was in consulting, where some of my mentors basically told me that you need to be doing your manager's job in some form to demonstrate that you are ready for promotion. And I've just sort of carried that through with me in all the subsequent jobs that I've done. And then I think the most important thing is to then make sure that people who are going to make a decision for your promotion are aware that you're doing all of this not because you just enjoy working hard. It's because that you're looking for promotion. You're looking for making that transition in your career. Because again, somebody gave me once an advice to say, your manager or your practice lead or whoever the decision maker is not a mind reader. They will not know unless you say it that this is what you're looking for. So make your life and their lives easier by just saying that this is what you're looking for.
That's fantastic advice. And when you touched upon the clarity of your plans, I remembered when I was graduating, and I went and met my future boss at the time. I was already working for the company, but I went in a meeting and I said, I want to be a manager here, and I would like to stay in this company. And I'm graduating, and I would like to have a discussion with you about my future. And I remember that it was a bit of a surprise, because I kind of went there and said all of my plans, and my manager was like, okay, we can discuss about it, that's for sure. And in my mind, it was normal to say. And then he said, I'm in a way happy you told me this, because I had no idea. Like, you did not, your intentions were not clear to me until you started, telling me specifically the role that you would like. Obviously, I don't recommend people to go directly, maybe do more research, but having this conversation where you prepare and you set your intentions and you make them clear to the person that can help you move forward is actually key for you to proceed in your career. Because, like you said, we're not mind readers. I don't know what your plan in 5 years is if you don't tell me what the next role is in your perspective in order to get there. You are the one responsible for laying your career plan and trying to figure out, okay, how can I move forward in this company for the role that hopefully will fulfill you, right? So I'm super happy you mentioned that, because it is a matter of conversation.
Yeah, I agree with you. And by the way, I love the fact that you mentioned that you went and met your manager and discussed all of these things, because in a way you went and interviewed your manager. I have to say, one of my most favorite managers before I joined the team, formally got the job, encouraged me to go and speak to other people in the team, facilitated introductions, and sort of introduced me to them. And one of the things that he told me was to go and ask them, how is it like working with this manager? So he basically asked me to do a quality test of him to make sure that others feel like others can endorse him. So it's important that you do these things, because in your initial conversation or in these parallel conversations, you would know very quickly how this person what role will this person play in your career development in the long term. So it's important to do all your homework and make sure that you're in the right place in an environment where you feel supported for career development.
Definitely. And also the interviewing part. In interviews at some point, with all my guests, you will hear different answers, but the thread of thinking is the same. You should have questions for your manager or the team that is interviewing you at the end of an interview. You shouldn't say, no, everything is clear. And that is because you also show your interest and what is the angle to which you see your role in that company. So there are questions like, how do people get promoted here? Who was the last person that you fired? What is the vision of the company? How do you see this team growing in the next, 3 years? Questions about the role and how the company plans to grow are important. So don't shy away from preparing a list and then being like, okay, based on the time I have left and based on what the conversation has been so far, I want to ask you this 5 questions or 3 questions, and share your intentions, because it gives you an understanding of how your role and how the company can help you grow, and that's obviously key.
I love that.
Fantastic. Okay, Gurpriya, I also want to know from you if there is anything specific that you do now at Google that you have not encountered before in your career and you think it's worth mentioning.
There are it's a great company. There's one of the things that I've encountered a lot, and anybody who's interested in figuring out how the company really works should actually read this book, which I read right before my interview, How Google Works. And one of the things which I remember reading in the book is the fact that people at Google are mostly very scrappy, as in they take initiative on their own and get things done instead of waiting to be told that this is what you should be doing. And since I've joined, this is one thing which I've seen consistently across the board. And it's something which I love and is super different about Google. So that's just one of the things which I've seen, not me, I guess me personally as well, but consistently across the board being done differently from other places where I've worked.
Fantastic. And then on that note of career progression, I do want to ask you in this interview if you can tell us from your experience some advice on asking for a promotion.
Sure. I think in terms of, again, throughout like all my jobs in consulting and currently, one of the things which I feel works always super well is one, making not leaving these conversations right up till the last minute. So when the annual performance management cycle comes, that's when people try to tell their managers or people they're working with that, hey, I'm going for promotion. I think it's important to do this more long term, like 6 months before or a year before. You make your intentions clear to say, look, this is what I'm looking for. I'm looking for the next step. I'm looking for the promotion over these 12-month period. Make sure that you sit down with your manager and make a career development plan to say, okay, these are the things which I'm doing really, really well. These are the 2 or 3 things which are areas of development for me in my current role. These are some of the skills or attributes that I need to be demonstrating before I can be promoted, and almost have this plan together with their manager, which you're proactively working on for 12 months. And this will do a few things, right? It will, make your intention super clear, give you something and your manager something to check progress against, and evaluate, as opposed to just an abstract conversation that you want to get promoted and you're doing everything right. So it makes the whole thing really tangible, and if you have a good manager, you can jointly work on it, and then if by chance you do not get promotion at the end of that 12 months, you have almost an evidence-based conversation to say, what was it where I did not meet the expectations and so on. So I feel like that proactive planning with time in advance is much better than leaving everything to the last minute just before and then asking for promotion and nobody is able to provide evidence or, help you deliver, build your case.
I love it. And it reminds me, everything you share, it reminds me of documentation. That's a key word, documentation.
Yeah,
and
absolutely.
that basically means that you're not making someone accountable for what they said, but you take notes on what you agreed on in order for you to feel that you have something to go back to and reflect on your own journey. So for example, maybe some people would think, yeah, but how do I tell my manager that I want to take notes during this meeting? And I am one of those people that likes to take notes, and I'm telling everyone at the beginning of a meeting, FYI, if you hear me typing or if you see me scrambling something, is because I'm taking notes of what is going on here. I will send you a review or an overview after, and I will keep this for my agenda for the next 6 months in order to always have some notes to go back to. And if you set your intentions clear at the beginning of a meeting, no one will be like, why are you taking notes? Why are you trying to put that on paper? It's more about accountability for what you agreed on in a way that will help both of you get back to something you said and be like, what happened from this moment where I took this note and we agreed on 6 months later? Is there anything that I should change on my path right now in order to achieve what we've agreed on?
Yeah, I agree. And that's absolutely critical. And then I always say, remember that you are accountable for your own career, right? So if you do things like take notes, make a plan, share that plan, then it shows that you are serious about it. So that's what I would
say. Definitely. It shows that you are serious about it. I love that. Gurpriya, thank you so much. So much advice that I'm sure will help a lot our audience. And I'm sure that if follow through, we'll probably get some feedback in a few months to a year that it worked well for some of our listeners and that their next career path has been laid for them. So that's fantastic. Thank you so much.
Amazing.
Tell us also maybe a bit about whether, maybe not so much formal, but do you use any framework about planning your career, or when it comes to career planning, is there something that you've considered or some sort of framework that you follow?
It's an interesting question. I have had I'm not one of those people who've had a very straightforward career. I would describe my career less as a straight line, but more as a jungle gym. For me, the key thing that I always look for is that am I learning in whatever I'm doing, and am I enjoying myself? And if both those things are not true, then I know that I need to change something immediately. And every role I've taken, or every time I've changed my jobs, that has sort of been my guiding principle always. Because I believe that as long as you're learning, as long as you're having a good time, and do not mean like jumping with joy, I just mean like you feel like, oh my god, that was super useful use of my time, that's when you will grow as well from a career perspective. uh, if you're not learning, if you're not enjoying yourself, that's when your growth stagnates and it doesn't go anywhere. At least that's the philosophy I live by.
That's very thoughtful. I'm happy that you've mentioned the two, let's say, areas of your North Star that you focus on. So whether you are learning and whether you are enjoying yourself. When it comes to mindset for your career path, do you have a motto in mind or some sort of professional goals, rather long term? Is it those two, or is it something more like specific?
I feel like it's even it is probably just my absolute North Star would be, am I learning something new? Will this be helpful for me when I go and do the next thing? And that's pretty much it. That's all I use. And of course, I mean, if you're thinking of it within an organization's context, I would always look for step up opportunities, right? Like I would never, well, maybe I would accept not a step up opportunity, but more of a lateral move when I feel like, oh my god, this is really going to pivot my career in a totally different direction, which I didn't think of. So that is all that I'm always keeping in mind when I'm looking for the next opportunity. And obviously things like money and position and all of those things come in later, much later for me. However, I know people who would say, oh, how much will this job pay me? What is my title going to be? And that's really not my strategy at all, ever. Because I feel like that would just limit you and you would just be looking for upward growth. Whereas I feel like you need to be able to find that next different step by being a little bit more open-minded. So that's been my goal, I would say.
Yeah, it's very thoughtful and insightful especially for the people that listen and think it's time for me to move or step up, but they would not consider a lateral move. And I'm happy you've mentioned that, because when you know what your goals are beyond the title and beyond the, let's say, financial package, or whatever package you're receiving, then maybe it's easier to say, hey, if I get the right opportunity, I will just move to another company or to another organization and do something similar, or something completely new where I train my skills and I try to work with cross-functional teams doing something completely adventurous. But if you don't know that you are, that's your objective, to learn or to test your skills, then you will be more reluctant to moving laterally, but you will be seeing the next step as the goal. I love that you're optimistic about it. I want to keep it on that level of like, you just need to do what you like. The rest will come. It's a very good motto to have and mantra to have. And I'm happy you've mentioned it. It's obviously harder in practice, but it is, I think, a realization that once you reach a certain level of skills and, of course, experience, it's easier for you to take decisions based on what you like to do than on what you think people would like you to see that you're doing. And it's just a kind of, it also comes with experience. And I've been feeling it more and more lately, whereas 6 years ago, I just wanted a full-time job that would be giving a fair salary to begin with and some managerial responsibilities. And now maybe I have a different way of looking at it, right? So it also comes with experience.
Yeah, I completely agree with you. And I think I was exactly same as you a few years ago. But as I went up the career ladder, I realized, hold on, this is not making me super happy. So maybe this is not the right formula. Somebody else, it might work for somebody else, but it's not going to work for me. So yeah,
Definitely. Okay, let's move on with something specific to scaling and growing your career and obviously your profile as well within large companies. You've worked for more than 15 years in growth, strategy, innovation, and operations. Tell us, what are 3 factors to consider if you want to scale a business?
Sure. I think the 3 key things to consider while you're trying to grow your business, first of all, is, how does the business or the product that you're working on fulfill the needs of your customers? So obviously knowing who your customers are, and then knowing what are the unmet needs of the customers, which your product is going to fulfill. The second thing, which is super important, because you might create a great product, which you might think is great, but if it doesn't fulfill any of the customer needs, nobody is going to buy it. The second thing is being fully aware of what the competitors are. And even if they are not direct competitors, it's important to know what the adjacent competitors are. Knowing how are the customers solving these needs right now, even if imperfectly, right? If you're so lucky that you found something which nobody else is offering and people are suffering, then you'll be the next unicorn, but it doesn't happen like that usually. And then, knowing like who your competitors are and how your product is different, or what's so special about your product, which will get the customers to pick your product, is important. And then I think the third thing, maybe the first 2 things kind of sound obvious, but the third thing, which I feel like maybe many people miss, is doing in-market experiments, right? Like scaling your product slowly in certain specific segments, and then seeing how people are reacting to it, what the uptake is. And then if that experiment is not quite working, quickly pivoting and taking into account the user feedback, and then iterating your product and relaunching it. Those are, I think, probably the 3 key things which I feel are important if you're scaling a business, new business or whatever in any geography.
That's very good. I really like the how specific they are, because obviously no matter the industry or the sort of product you're trying to launch or upgrade, there's some key things to consider when it comes to business development. And I'm super happy that you tackled this. I also want to go with you through the topic of managing difficult conversations, because obviously developing your career path and within our professional lives, not everything is champagne and nice team building activities, but sometimes we also have to have some difficult conversations and open subjects when it's time for them to be discussed that are maybe not comfortable. So tell us a bit about, how do you manage difficult situations or difficult conversations in your professional life, and what do you advise people that, well, they don't know where to start?
I think it's a good question. And to be very honest with you, even now, I still struggle with them sometimes. But probably the best advice I would have is that just go and have these conversations, because if you leave these things festering for a long time, they will blow up sooner or later, right? So some of the things which I do to prepare for a difficult conversation is, first of all, always try to separate out emotions from the actual topic, because sometimes these conversations can get really emotionally charged up. So it's important to make sure that you're able to separate those 2 things out, to be able to go with a really clear problem as opposed to all the resulting emotions that it is causing. The second thing, which I always try to do, is go and sound it out with my trusted group of people. If it could be a peer, if it is a conversation, depending on the type of conversation, it could be somebody more senior than me who I trust and respect, who I might want to go to for advice, and to almost sound out my approach, and then almost kind of taking their advice or into consideration, and then just going and having that conversation. And it has happened many times, right? Like it has happened to me in the context of my own personal career. It has happened to me in context of performance of a more junior team member. It has happened in context of, project I'm working on and difference of opinions with stakeholders on that project. So you'll always encounter that difficult conversation, but it's just important to be clear what the actual issue is, be separate out the emotions and see if you have that group of trusted people who you can go to. Make sure you do that sounding board thing before you dive into the conversation. But that would be my recommendations.
Definitely. Thank you so much for covering that. It's always a difficult discussion to have when obviously there's not a specific subject, but it's more like, how would I handle this? And I feel that most times we need to follow our gut and also understand that if we feel something is wrong, we should probably take a look at it and not try to avoid
I love that.
the conversation.
Yeah, I think that's absolutely beautiful the way you put it. If it is bothering you, make sure that you have an opportunity to air it out or voice it out, and don't let it fester in any context. But do take time to make sure that, it's valid, whatever your technique with that validation is.
Definitely. Gurpriya, thank you so much for that. I want to talk before we wrap up about the work-life balance. And I'm super interested to know, how do you tackle work-life balance? And when we look at someone's career, and in this case also your career, with so many years of experience, you're a young woman who has already so much experience, and you've reached a leadership position within Google. Do you ever feel a pressure to reach higher? And how do you tackle work-life balance when you also maybe sometimes want more? How does those two worlds come together?
I mean, it's interesting, right? I love that you say that I've achieved so much, because I always feel like I have not achieved enough. I'm still not where I would like to be from a career perspective. But exactly as you said, it is important to almost have these things that you can fall back on to do a sanity check, right? Like for me, some of the things that I do is I put in blocks in my calendar when I have some personal appointments or things that I need to be doing. I'm lucky, my team is super supportive, and they don't have any objections for me, or they trust me to do my work when I need to do my work, and they respect the blocks that I put in my calendar. But specifically, it's important for me to work out in the morning, at least a couple of days a week. So I make sure that I've that blocked in my calendar. I always have a activity which I do. Like last year, it was learning German. This year, it is doing tap dancing, which I do just one day a week, with no goal of being like the best tap dancer in the world or whatever, just to have fun. And these are some of the things. And then, meeting friends and family, and then having goals outside of work. Those things are super important, I feel like, to kind of almost give you that perspective, reset moment, and ability to, move away, get some distance from everything that's going on at work. So that's how I personally do work-life balance. But so take that time, go get that cup of coffee, drink it away from your laptop, have a chat with a colleague, whatever it is, but make sure you have solid things that you do outside of work which keep you busy as well.
Definitely. So of course, think about hobbies as something that should exist, and it's not a nice to have in your life, but it's more of a must have to be even more used to it. And I can tell you that when we're recording this, I've worked so much after like the official hours, also because I have this passion project, and I'm, we are launching the live event, and that those things take time to plan. And, when I look at my day and I see that it's like after 8 or 9, I'm thinking, wow, this is really amazing to see. I'm so in the flow that I don't think about it, but I cannot do this for more than a week. I need to get back to a routine where I have a proper work-life balance. And life is not life and passion projects. Life is just enjoying the time that you have outside of your computer. And, so it's obviously it's something that we've been discussing in this podcast for the last year and a half a lot, but it's definitely something to remind everyone that you need to take the time to do things for yourself. Fantastic, Gurpriya. Now it's time now to actually share the final 5 fire questions. You had a lot of advice to share with us. And to wrap up this interview, I will start by asking you, what is one book you think everyone should read?
One book I think everyone should read is Harry Potter.
Fantastic. I would not expect anything less from someone living in the Harry Potter universe. What is the best piece of advice you have ever received?
The best piece of advice I've ever received, I think I've said this before, ask for what you want, whether it's a new job or the next career opportunity or a promotion. Unless you ask, nobody would know, because nobody is a mind reader. So that would be my advice, or that's the best piece of advice I've received in my career.
Fantastic. Who is your role model?
My mother is my role model. I feel like she's made sure that I get all the opportunities, but she did not get. And she's worked super hard for me to be able to have those opportunities. So I would say she's my role model.
Fantastic. If you were to change places with someone, who would it be and why?
If I were to change places with somebody, I think I would like it to be with a school career counselor. It is a funny one, but I did a project once with UNICEF, and the thing that we did was help high school students figure out what their sort of next career step would be. And I feel like people, especially girls, as well as people of minority ethnic origin, they don't know how to sell themselves. So they have great skills. They know exactly, like they've done amazing things in their career. But what they're missing is that the ability to capture that in their CV, or the ability to say that out loud in an interview. So I would love to be in that position where I can coach people, especially students, to kind of build out their profile and take that next step in their career. So that's what I would do.
Fantastic. And if you were to have another career, what would you choose to do?
If I were to have another career, I would love to be a startup founder. And the topic I would like to work on is childcare. I feel like the market is pretty broken at the moment, and it is especially disadvantageous for women because the childcare responsibility falls on them, and often they step out of the workforce and are behind in their career. And I feel like there is so much that can be done there to make it a more equitable market and more accessible for more people. And I feel like the direct outcome of it would be we'll see more women in workplace. So that's what I would do if I were to change my career.
Fantastic. Thank you so much, Gurpriya. I really like your very optimist tone and the way that you look at life, and how you would like to also do something that impacts society, obviously, as as I'm sure that you are now invested in as well. So thank you so much for having this interview with me. I hope you had a lot of fun. I definitely enjoyed our conversation, and I wish you the best of luck in the future.
Thank you so much, Alexandra. It was such a pleasure talking to you and exchanging ideas. I loved it. Thank you for inviting me.
Thank you so much. And thank you all for listening. Stay tuned for more interviews with inspiring role models.
We hope you've enjoyed this episode of FemLead Podcast. Share the news with your friends and follow us on social media at FemLead Podcast everywhere.